Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about the positivity here on the show, and with me right now I've got a very special guest. He is a former NXT Tag Team Champion, former Ring of Honor Tag Team Champion, one-time Ring of Honor World Television Champion, wrestled for numerous promotions, WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, MLW, and several others. I'm pleased to welcome the one, the only Bobby Fish to the show. Welcome, Bobby, to Wrestling with Heart.
Oh, thank you, sir. Appreciate you having me.
Yes, my pleasure. So tell me about your childhood. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Albany, New York, which is upstate. So it was, when I worked for New Japan and for Noah, you would meet people, Japanese natives, and they would immediately think New York City. Um, and it's where I'm from, there's farms and there's mountains and all that stuff. There's cows.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the one thing when you think about if you meet somebody from another part of the country or another part of the world, when they bring up the words New York, you're automatically going to think of the city, right?
Yeah, Times
Not
Square, you know. Yeah.
not thinking about the upstate or, the smaller towns in that state, because there's like a lot, Albany, Rochester, Buffalo.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I'm originally from, but now my wife and I we live in Ormond Beach, Florida, which is like closer to Daytona. But yeah, I mean, I'm 10 minutes from the beach, so
Yeah, I'd imagine summers are very nice there.
I mean, it's being an upstate New York kid, it's basically summer all year round. So
Yeah. All
makes it
right.
a little bit weird. I'm not gonna lie, but
Okay. So wrestling, was that always something you enjoyed watching as a kid? Is that something you were always interested in growing up?
yes. So my earliest memories would be with my father and my uncle Mike, who they were on the fire department together. Um, they married my mother and her sister. And I think my earliest memories are sitting on my Uncle Mike and Aunt Kathy's living room floor watching Jimmy Snuka covered in blood coming off the top of the steel cage onto Don Morocco.
Mm.
Um, and I think that kind of encapsulates all of the what's special about pro wrestling, and it hooked a young kid immediately. And so I always, yeah, I was always a fan of it. Um, Definitely watched a lot with my dad, and um, ironically, not even ironically, it's sort of apropos. Like one of the last things before my father passed away in the hospital, he and I watched Raw together. And that was something that we definitely did during when I was in college and the Monday Night Wars and all that stuff. So yeah, wrestling's always been a pretty big part.
Who were some of your favorites growing up?
Um, Ricky Steamboat and the Bulldogs were the first ones that really kind of I took to, and then I can't say that I wasn't a Hulkamaniac. I definitely was. But then the ones that really um intrigued me as I got older were like the NWA Crockett years, um, guys like Sting, and through Sting, and like Lex Luger. But through Sting, I was introduced to the great Muda, and Muda, I would have to put as my my favorite. He's my number one on my Mount Rushmore. And so yeah, and I couldn't help but appreciate, and this was before I saw behind the curtain and knew how the donuts were made, but Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Brainbusters, whatever you want to call them, they were always. I didn't think I liked them, but when I look back at all the matches, the tag matches that I enjoyed, they were the common thread, not usually, not so much the babyface team. So,
I really enjoyed watching some of the Great Muda's matches with Ric Flair because of the psychology and the athleticism and the stories that they were telling really made for a good show.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I got into martial arts when I was 8, so like I was there for come up of like ninjas were a new thing, and it was I was a ninja for like 5 years in a row for Halloween, and so Muda was like a combination of that because it was pro wrestling, or a combination of two things that I love, which was pro wrestling and I wanted to be a ninja. So here was this guy, and I had remembered the great Kabuki from World Class growing up, and he was, I don't remember what they said. They might have said that he was his son or something, but I whatever it was, there was a link there. And so I took a liking to him for that reason. But then once I saw him move, he was so ahead of his time and so like unworldly athletic, and was able to blend the martial arts into his stuff that wasn't, it was real, that's what I think was so captivating for me.
When you talk about martial arts, did you do karate, taekwondo, jujitsu? Which was your
I started with taekwondo, um and then later years I got into like a freestyle karate, American, which eventually, it was one of my football coaches who was also a martial artist. He started kickboxing. So then I started to lean in that direction where it was more kickboxing, but this was not Muay Thai. It was more American style, like Dennis the Terminator Alexio style kickboxing. And then later, I got into Muay Thai, and then Muay Thai's been my kind of my go-to. I just fell in love with it, and I've had a few amateur fights, and really, yeah. I mean, if I could pick a second career, it'd probably be fighting Muay Thai.
Yeah, definitely those kicks are so powerful. Those, body shots are they hurt. I mean, just
It
as much they're really like, ow, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the more complete martial arts, and I think it's a very, combat like that is very relatable for people because I think it's in our DNA to want to answer that fight or flight question, and I think that that's kind of what I had at a young age, and so it started me down the path of contact sports, Taekwondo being the first one, at 8. But then when I was 9, I started playing football and lacrosse. And then, like I said, kickboxing. And it was just always, what else can I express myself physically
Right.
in? And, what other things can I do to, run my head into other people or objects. I don't know
Right. You
what that's
were
about me.
you were into sports growing up, so having that background, wrestling, that was right up your alley. You know, wanting to get into that physicality, that contact, you that was something you wanted to do from a young age, I can tell.
Yeah, I football was my first love, and I played through college. And when I was done playing in college, I didn't want to be done playing. So, the NFL wasn't in the cards for me. Um, but I thought maybe I could play like arena football or something. And I had tryouts with two arena football teams. And when I didn't make either team, it was kind of like, okay, well, I really didn't prepare for this. Not that I thought like, okay, I'm going to the NFL. I didn't, but I was just immature and got a bachelor's degree in English while I was in school for no reason other than I just wasn't a bad writer. So I didn't really have any plan. And I think that sort of aimlessness led me to a few different things. And long story short, wrestling became an option somewhere along the way. And here we are.
Now, you made your debut in 2002. What can you tell me about your first few matches? And you were trained, I believe, by Harley Race,
Tony DeVito was
Tony
actually
DeVito.
kind of a misperception. Harley Race was someone that I did train with later in years. Once I had already started working independence and stuff, he was actually the person who helped me get to Japan for the first time.
Okay.
So it was kind of Tony, without a doubt, was the guy that taught me how to do this industry. Um, Harley helped me catch what was probably the biggest break in my career at that time, and obviously was gracious enough to pass on. Um, he forgot more about pro wrestling than most people will ever know. So you couldn't be around Harley and not. You had to really be a box of rocks if you didn't pick something up.
What can you tell me about any pieces of advice that you picked up from Tony or Harley that still stick with you today, especially when you're coaching students?
Um, I think for me at this point, um, Harley was very big on um, being present, and it was a different time in wrestling then, so it wasn't. I don't really like to get use too many inside baseball terminology, but it wasn't a high spot business the way that it is today. So it was a lot easier, dare I say, to be present and be where your feet are, because guys understood better um, the concept of a high spot, and that a high spot was something that was, there might be a few in the match, and they're like landmarks along the way. And in between that, you go out and you work, kid.
Yeah,
That's what Harley would say. And um, that's, I think, something that in today's wrestling we could use some more of.
all about the variety, trying to get your spots in, trying to figure out what moves you're going to do, and find a way to tell a story that's going to appeal to the audience.
I mean, that's where I think the presence comes um, uh, into it the most, is where if you're trying to do this with nothing but high spots, then that requires memorization. And if you've memorized something, there's no way that you can be present while you're doing it.
Mm,
So it's kind of a flawed formula, and it's, dare I say it, I can't imagine that, Harley would take to it kindly in any way, shape, or form, if he were here.
Yeah, the business has changed so much over the
It
last 20, 25 years. I mean, you're seeing guys now doing a lot of really cool stuff in the ring, but I think the important thing is you want to give a backstory, a reason to why these people are in such conflict so that you get them to care about what's going on.
Well, it's not even my words. I've heard it said numerous times that, like, you're not, pro wrestling, nobody's going to reinvent the wheel, and it's the truth. Pro wrestling has stood the test of time based on certain things, and the business now is quite a bit different, but it has to be different because if it doesn't, anything that doesn't evolve, which by definition means it becomes something slightly different, um, it will cease to exist. So wrestling is just like anything else. Today's wrestling, I understand, me as a performer, like, it's not my locker room anymore. It's somebody else's locker room. And those are the people that are going to take the business into the next however long. So, like, I have to find a way to, I have had to find a way to exist in that atmosphere. And like I said, so I welcome it. That does kind of bring me to some of the coaching stuff and whatever, where I feel like some of the things that have been lost in the shuffle, they do have value, and because I was there doing those things, and they're somewhat second nature to me, that like I have some value in passing that on, and I feel like it's almost disrespectful if I didn't, to the people that helped me, the Fit Finleys of the world and the William Regals and Shawn Michaels and Triple H, Terry Taylor. Like, a lot of what I pass on now is nothing more than their stuff.
Yeah. It's all about, cycling the new stuff and teaching the next generation. And that's the always the important thing. And speaking of, you mentioned Triple H and Shawn Michaels, you were part of the Undisputed Era in NXT along with Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole, Roderick Strong. I mean, that group was just so essential to NXT and a major part of the brand. How did all that come about? The formation of the group.
That was Triple H. Straight away. Roddy was already with the company. Um, our contracts, Kyle, myself, and Adam, were all ending, and we were all doing some work. Well, Kyle and I were doing some work with New Japan, um, and then there was this other potential, but I don't know that we really knew how much potential was there. And then once the wheels kind of turned a little bit, it became apparent that there was going to be um, possible room for us, but never in a million years did we think that we would be brought in as a group. Um, I think Kyle and I were pretty sure that they were going to keep us a tag team, and so much so that we had owned the rights to the Red Dragon name. So we figured, like, okay, well, that might be what we'll be. But we didn't know that they would pair us with Adam and then turn us into something, a 3-person. And then later, after my ACL injury, they brought Roddy in and turned us into a 4-person. So yeah, I mean, and I have to assume it was just all Triple H. It seems like, but based on my time and stuff there, that, like, none of this was a happy accident. which is still mind-boggling to me to think that a guy that I grew up watching and who is arguably like the today the most powerful entity in professional wrestling, like that he looked at the four of us, you know, myself and three of my best friends in the industry, and thought like, okay, I can make money with that. And
Yeah.
yeah, so
Do you wish it would have continued on a little longer? I mean, you were there for 4 years.
yeah, I mean, I would have been happy, of course, continuing to work there. I think COVID made things real weird. Um, and then everything that would come down with WWE from there to even now was truly unpredictable. I don't think anybody really saw any of it coming. And I think this industry is just a strange place at times. And I think we as a group were in a very solid position, and then some things changed. Structure of the company changed. Some things that were well above our pay grade changed, and we got kind of flushed out in the shuffle of everything. Um, and I, if I remember correctly, yeah, I was the first one to go. I look,
Wow. That's devastating, when you hear your name being called, hey, we're letting you go. I mean, that's hard to hear because you're putting all this work in and you've been there a long time, and it's really tough to deal with that.
yeah, I mean, I'm a Christian, so I believe that he has a plan, and that's what's playing out in front of us. And like we have free will, but I think for the most part, he's got it's on his schedule, not ours. So some of these things that appear to be misfortune, it's just a matter of being patient and understanding that like there's a reason why this is the fire that you might need to go through to be prepared for what's next.
Yeah, I mean, you've had runs in AEW and MLW and Impact, so you've definitely been able to bounce back and get your name back in the mix. So it's
Mm-hmm.
got to feel good, to be able to keep your toes in the wrestling scene a bit today, working with so many people. Who have been some of your favorite opponents to work with over the years?
Um, I mean, all of the War Games matches were pretty enjoyable to put together. So if you think of any of the people that were in those, and they were numerous, but like the War Raiders, I know like working with AOP, Kyle and I had a lot of opportunity to work with AOP, which I enjoyed, especially with Paul Ellering being on the floor with them, having grown up. A big fan of the Crockett years and the Road Warriors. And then Street Profits were always a blast to work with. I'd say at this point, I recently had a match with Timothy Thatcher for MLW, and I could not have enjoyed that more than I did. It was truly, for a lot of different reasons, it was truly just such a pleasure, and one that I would love to run back. Recently, there I wrestled Kenta recently also, which we have history from way back in early in my career when I was working for Noah. Um, Kenta, I think, is like a pioneer of the style that uh, I and he employ today, as well as guys like Brian Danielson and Samoa Joe and Kyle O'Reilly. Like I think that Kenta kind of set that standard for the martial arts based um, pro wrestler, and I think the standard that he set was like, okay, we're not faking the funk here. Like, I really kickbox. I know how to, like, I this is what I do, and so I really those would definitely be a few that stick out for sure.
Mm-hmm. Definitely some good ones. Well, let's switch gears and talk about some of the stuff that you've done outside of wrestling. I know you've done a lot of charity work, things in your community. What are some of the things that you've done outside of wrestling as far as charity work is concerned?
So I'm sure everybody is familiar with DDP Yoga, and I've been teaching DDP Yoga now for a year or so. And I almost feel like not so much charity, but as far as just helping people, that's been a way that, like, I didn't anticipate enjoying as much as I have. And it having the reach that it has and the effect that it has on people, um, being involved with Dallas now, I've met people with just stories that you wouldn't believe if you didn't know better. Um, at the DDP Yoga Summit this year, I met a guy by the name of Mark Romaldi, and he came up to me after my class that I taught there, and he was talking to me, and he shared with me that he was a challenge winner and that he used to be. I mean, he's standing in front of me. He's about 5'11" and maybe 195 pounds. And he tells me that he was a couple years ago, he was 450 pounds. And I mean, I didn't even, you just wouldn't believe it. And he showed me a picture, and it was like, I can somewhat see maybe like in the eyes or something, but it just didn't even look like the same human being. And I feel like there's room there to do some um, really good work that can help people. Dallas is already doing it, and I feel like for myself that's one of the ways I can truly help people. So I'm doing as much DDP yoga as I can.
How long have you been involved with DDP Yoga?
I've been certified to instruct for almost a year now, and but back in 2018, after my ACL surgery, um, I had moved to Florida for the job with NXT, and I had no family, come with me. So the only people I knew in Florida at the time were the people I worked with, and I wasn't going to work because I had ACL surgery. And Dallas, being the human being that he is, he had gifted the app to any pro wrestler. And I was a pro wrestler, so I had it. And the app starts in the bed if you need to. Like, if you're bedridden, he's got a place. He's got workouts, and so just to break the monotony of what my life had become, being in a one bedroom apartment in Orlando, Florida, um, I started doing DDP yoga. And then I progressed to like a chair, and then you'd get up out of the chair, and so on and so forth. And I had seen such vast improvement in just everything that, like I said, that was 2018, and I haven't stopped doing DDP yoga since. Um, so at the beginning of the year, when it had come out that you could get certified, I spoke to Dallas, and again, the generosity of this man it knows no bounds. But I got certified, and now I'm fortunate enough to be able to bring this to other people. Some in wrestling, some outside of wrestling. Uh, Really, just it. I, I think DDP yoga helps people be like a better grandparent. because you're not going to be on the cart at Disney World, the motorized thing. You're going to be walking the park with your grandkids. So
Yes, it's definitely life changing.
100%. I mean, it's that statement is the closest thing that could be to a fact.
Hmm.
Um, it's amazing. The people I encountered at the summit this year, their stories, they're not believable. Like, I think the one that's probably best known is Arthur Gorman, the paratrooper. It's on YouTube, and it's just, it doesn't seem real, but they all are. And that's amazing.
Yes. Well, Bobby, this has been wonderful getting the chance to speak with you. It means a lot to me and my listeners and viewers that are watching this on YouTube. Where can people find out more about you on social media?
The Bobby Fish is my Instagram. It's also my Twitter handle. So I'm active on both of those. BobbyFishApparel.com would be t-shirts and 8x10s and trading cards, all the stuff. Um, and I'm coaching professional wrestling at Malachi Black's school in Plant City, Florida. Of course, the proximity is a bit out there for me, so I'm not there daily. But then I'm also coaching at the House of Champions in Longwood, which is a suburb of Orlando, which is, it's still a little bit of a hike for me. It's about an hour drive, but I'm there regularly, 4 days a week. And so, yeah, that's where you can find me.
Is
And of course, MLW, um, the Rogue Horsemen. We have taken MLW by storm, and we're just getting started.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to seeing what MLW has in store in the
Mm,
coming year and beyond. I think it's a great promotion, and I look forward to checking out more of what it has to offer. Thanks again, Bobby,
yes,
and
sir.
you're more than welcome to come back.
All right, I appreciate that, sir.
All right, take care.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye. This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.